Alrighty, got ourselves a nice little Champions League recap here to get through. We've got some EPL games, and we got I called it the A League best bits, but it depends on how you look at that, huh? Play that tune, sound.
I almost put liver now.
Liver now. I want that liver now.
Give
me that
me
liver.
my iron now.
Whew.
You bastard. Man, there is a whole lot to cover.
Yep.
Crazy couple of days in the game we love and we also
Yeah.
call football sometimes.
Big
Or
time.
kickball.
Kickball.
Kick the round ball. Let's
Oh,
kick off
soccer.
soccer. Soccah.
There
Soccer.
you go.
Or what ball in some parts.
Yeah.
Let's look at the Champions League. Now we'll start off with one of the more, I guess, tamer fixtures amongst all the ruckus from the
Yeah.
others. Liverpool Benfica, although it was 3-3, pretty comfortable for Liverpool for most parts. Benfica did give them a late scare, but with some of the set piece marking Benfica displayed, I don't think they were ever in this tie
Yeah.
to begin with. Konate, 2 straight ties where he just waltzes in for a header.
Yeah. Legit.
That kind of it's kind of sets the tone for how the game went. But to be honest, look, valiant effort from Benfica. Yaremchuk, Nunez, and I believe it was Gonzalez Ramos. All got on the score sheet at Anfield, which is something that not a lot of teams can
Yep.
lay claim to. But overall, look, valiant effort, but there's just levels to it. Like Liverpool never
Yeah.
really looked scared, even when they
No.
did. Like it was 6. I think it was on aggregate 6. What is it?
3.
6-1, 6-2, or something like
Yeah.
that when they scored their second goal. So I mean, I don't think they were really too scared of Benfica. Certainly Firmino didn't, since he had all the time in the world to score his goal. But yeah, overall, pretty smooth sailing. Good for Liverpool. No major injuries. No, hard fought games, which
They
keeps them
rested a bunch
fresh.
of players as well.
Exactly. Yeah, they did majority of the game without the big trio, which is good for them. Van
Yeah.
Dijk also was rested, so all around
Mhm.
just 5 stars for them. If you look at it,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I reckon
yeah.
it's like it's one of those rare games where no one really goes home to upset, because obviously Liverpool never looked like they were going to bounce out of this. Benfica didn't go into this game expecting to turn the tie around, and they still put on a valiant effort. They scored some goals. You had a few players out there possibly playing for a contract. When you've got someone like Darwin who's apparently being shopped around to the EPL teams. It helps to score a few goals against an EPL club, especially one as good as Liverpool. So a little bit of an audition, I suppose.
Papa Mendes
But
is rubbing his hands.
yeah. So look, I feel like it ran its course this tie. It never really looked like it was going off the rails, so to speak. And at the same time, I feel like both teams can come away with it relatively happy with their performances. I don't think Benfica expected to get this far in the Champions League. They didn't expect to beat Ajax, for example.
I didn't
In
certainly.
the last round. So like, I think that they can be happy with it. I'm just curious, is like how much of this Benfica team will return for another Champions League run. I'm not so sure. They've got a few boys that they're shopping out. But that's the life of Benfica. It's the life of every Portuguese team,
Well, not only that, it's just probably one of the worst Benfica teams that have come out in recent years. There's been more talented teams
Yeah.
coming out of them, coming out of Benfica. But yeah, this one just kind of patched together a few youngsters. I think that they need to resolve whatever backroom issues there's going on in the club internally, the turmoil with the president, um, you know, finding out where the money went, stuff like that. Just
Yeah.
again, just clearing out house and kind of figuring out how to return to the former glory, or at least something of more recent, I guess, fame or glory. So yeah, look, like you said, head held high for Benfica. 3-3.
Yeah.
They went in with nothing to lose. They could only turn around the tie via miracle, and credit to them, they stuck through it and took their
Yeah.
chances.
And their best players still shone, so to speak. So like
Hmm.
they still get the right praise. They get some time in the sun. Maybe they can make an extra 10 or 15 mil off the sales of those players, and they would have if they hadn't had the Champions League run. So I'm sure they're happy with that. Bayern versus Villarreal. Now this was a game that could have been turned around, right? With
Hmm.
Villarreal going into this leg away in Munich with a
One
1-0
goal.
lead, one
Mm.
goal. Man, not at all the performance
It
you'd
really
expect from
was
Bayern.
just it was kind of a continuation of the first leg, really. A few more
Mm,
chances from Bayern this time around, but again, no really good clear cut chances. I think some of them could have been taken better. Lewandowski actually appeared on the goal scoring sheet, which is good.
mm,
A little tidy finish from him. But other than that, not much to report. I mean, Muller had a late chance. If he chested instead of try doing a dive a header, sorry, with his chance late on, I think maybe could have seen a goal
mm.
there. But look, overall, like I just think defensively they just kept getting caught out. I think Upamecano was caught flat-footed a few times, and the weirdest thing watching the highlights back again. The weirdest part was why didn't Davies slide when the ball was played across to Chukwueze? I'm
I don't know.
sure, like he's behind him, so he sees that the ball is he's not next to the ball, so it could probably slide in.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure if the angle, unless the angle deceives me, but the ball kind of runs across his path. Like wouldn't you just slide
I
or
think
hook it away? I don't know. Maybe I'm being.
maybe a symptom of his extreme pace is the thought
Hmm.
that I'll let him get it because I'll catch up to him. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
don't know. Or maybe he just thought he wouldn't take
Because
it first time. He'd turn back and then he'd be there
that's
to
what I'm
meet him
saying. Yeah,
or
that's what I'm
the
saying. I think
moment.
he
I don't know.
thought, oh,
It's just
I'll let it
weird. It
run
just
to
looks
him.
funny.
I'll get in front of him again.
Yeah,
Mistake though, mistake. He
yeah.
should have tried to
I
lunge
think he
out
should
for
have
it. I
slid.
agree.
But look, overall, congrats to Villarreal. Two legs, counter-attacking masterclass.
Yep.
Emre, deservedly so, the winner of both ties. Um, just
Hmm.
a really a continuation of the
That's
first
what
leg.
got
Just
me right. Is like I
disjointed,
thought
very
I
disjointed from
I
Bayern.
thought at the very least, if Villarreal were going to win this game, it would be like a smash and grab type thing
Mm,
where they took their chance, their one or two chances in the game, and that was it. But realistically, I mean, in my opinion, they had the better chances this game
mm,
by far. And
mm,
when you think that they're playing against Bayern in Munich, um, with Bayern needing to and desperately needing a goal, you'd think even if Bayern was to lose this game, that they would lose it, dying by the sword, so to speak, with a
mm,
gut
mm,
full of chances that they missed. But really, you just need to look at the Lewandowski goal to see how hard they had to work for a chance. Because even Lewandowski's goal, he was marked by a player, it went through another player's legs and it trickled
uh-huh,
in off the post. It wasn't
yeah,
a
yeah.
clear chance by any stretch of the imagination. So I
Really,
just find it,
really worked for it.
yeah, I find it very like concerning, very much a red flag that they couldn't really, put the pieces together and get the flow
Mm,
going and create some chances. Like, yeah, fair enough on the counter, they're getting diced up. I understand that. Um, what can you do there? Maybe you don't have the defensive prowess that you need to deal with that sort of pace on the counter. Fair enough, but you can't tell me that offensively they don't have all the pieces that they would need to create chances, and they really didn't. I mean, when you've got a forward like Lewandowski who really doesn't have a weakness in terms of his offensive game, he's good in the air, he's good with back to goal, he's good running in behind. Like, there's not really, it's not like he constricts you to a certain play style. You can really create for him in any way possible. So the fact that over two legs you can't really create anything for the bloke, that to me shows like old mate Nagelsmann, he still hasn't quite figured out what he needs to do with this team to
mm,
consistently create opportunities, right?
mm,
That's a
mm,
worry for me. Similar to how I was worried coming out of the Manchester City game, the first leg against Atleti, when I was like, hold on, I get it, like, Atleti played anti-football or whatever, but they just gave the ball to Man City for 90 minutes and they created 0.93 chances.
mm,
That doesn't make any sense. Same
mm,
sort of thing here with Bayern, whereas they actually were stung by it.
Mm,
I don't know how City, the City, like let's say City played the same game they played against Atleti, the same two legs. They played against Villarreal that way. I don't know how
mm,
confident you'd be going into those ties, given the fact that Villarreal, when they counter, they actually counter with some venom in
mm,
comparison to Atleti, who counters with João Felix picking up the ball in midfield. So
mm,
a little different. I think it's Bayern Munich came up against the perfect opposition to exploit
mm,
them in the current state that they are in at the moment.
mm,
Nagelsmann clearly hasn't gotten a grip of the team as much as he'd like to. His style is pretty experimental, and he happened to go up against a coach that's super pragmatic, with a team that's bought in form, and has the right sort of players to really ruffle their feathers. And I think it just all sort of worked out.
I just think, yeah, it was the perfect storm. I think on the Nagelsmann front, I think he's never had to be the well, I guess kind of with Leipzig, he was, I guess, the big fish. But I mean, playing, coaching Leipzig and coaching Bayern in the Champions League and in the Bundesliga, it's not very, I guess, comparable. Just
No,
given the size and how people look at it, a lot of people would sit back against Bayern and
yeah,
make it difficult. Whereas against Leipzig, they might take their chances a bit more. I don't know.
yeah,
To
oh
be
no,
fair, I
hundred
haven't seen a
percent. Like,
lot, but I'd probably say the perception of
no,
managing a club like Bayern is a lot
yeah,
different to what he's done so far with
I agree.
Hoffenheim and Leipzig. So I
Hmm.
think maybe there's just a few more coaching badges he needs to get under his belt. Just understanding how to coach a large club like this with expectations that are pretty high.
Yeah,
In all honesty, but I think what let him down was just his defense. I think the midfield was poor as well because a lot of it went through the middle, right through the
mm,
middle, especially the goal for Chukwueze at the start. Lo Celso just really kind of waltzes through.
mm,
Obviously contested, but that shouldn't really happen.
yeah.
And
Also,
like
how
you go.
good did Lo Celso look over these two
Hey,
ties?
I've been saying for a long time, Lo Celso's a ball. Even when he was at Spurs, it's just he couldn't find a way to stay fit at
Yeah,
Spurs, and his role doesn't really exist in either Spurs coach's lineup. So it's a shame. But I'm telling you, look, he's a very small center mid, but he knows his strengths and weaknesses. Like he's very
yeah,
agile. He's got a bit of I guess heart to him, does fight for the ball. It's just he couldn't stay fit at Spurs, and his position, even with Nuno and Mourinho and Conte, it
yeah,
doesn't exist. I think his position in general doesn't really exist in English football, which is
no,
why he always succeeds in more. He succeeded in Spain.
yeah,
He was at Real Betis from PSG, and then
mm,
when he moved there permanent, and then now again on loan at Villarreal. Like that position doesn't really. His style of play isn't really very conducive to like a midfield in England because it's very much up and down lateral.
yeah,
Whereas I don't know, I think in especially in a team that's counter-attacking, you can kind of pick up the ball and move forward and kind of maybe play a part. Like it's hard to explain. It's not quite a six, not quite an eight. It's somewhere in the
yeah,
middle of both. Like it's like
yeah. I
playing.
get you.
You would have played Bruno Fernandes in the middle of the pitch, just at a more slight frame and less. I think less strength. Obviously, he's a smaller guy.
Yeah, he's more of the Xavis and Iniestas
Mm,
and that
mm,
sort of that ilk of small center midfielder.
mm.
But he's not like so incredibly gifted technically
Yeah,
that it overcomes his small size the way that
yeah,
Iniesta
yeah.
or Xavi would. So
Mm,
that's probably why he struggles a little bit in England because
mhm.
that role isn't really there, and he's
Mm.
not like a Santi Cazorla type, genius or
Yeah.
David Silva type genius where yeah he's tiny but he's just too good to leave
Mm.
out.
Yeah.
Lo Celso is
Mm.
a little bit of a luxury player, I think.
Yeah, and you
Just a little
can't
bit.
play him too far forward. You can't play him
No,
as a 10 because he's
no,
not super creative and not super attacking. But then
no,
you can't play him in a DM role because he's
no.
just not a defensive stalwart.
He's
So
not a
he
defensive.
gets
No,
caught
no.
in the middle. He's a jack of all trades, master of none, to put
He's
it
one of those
simply.
guys where with the right team, like if you've got a midfielder, if you've got a center midfielder who's very much skewed towards work, and then you've got a really offensive midfielder, then he works nicely as your sort of balance between the two. But if
Yeah.
you've got two other midfielders who are, relatively up and down players, relatively balanced, and you want a third balanced guy to throw in there, he's just never going to be that pick.
No,
So
yeah.
in England, if you look at the standard English midfield, they tend to be depending if they're playing 2 or 3 in there, they tend to be relatively all-round players. Not maybe not pure technicians and maybe not pure defensive specimens. Somewhere in the middle, and Lo Celso he really isn't that at all.
No,
He's
100%.
he's sort of like in that Pirlo vein where you need to play him really deep back,
Mm.
but he's not going to do any defensive work. So it's a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, he's a good complementary piece. I always think that the best midfields always have to have a combination of someone like Lo Celso, who
Yep.
is more of a dictator of the game, but also is covered by someone like a good defensive midfielder. In his case, Capoue,
Yep.
who does all the heavy lifting defensively and does all the up and down work. And then you've got another third person next to him who just kind of is like the spare man in the box, or just goes up and
Yeah.
down, does the pressing, kind of bit of a runner. So he fits into that third spot. But again, yeah, very, very few places for him in England. So that's why he probably thrives most in Spain. And I wouldn't be surprised to see if Villarreal pull the trigger and
They
buy him
should.
permanently if there's a clause. I think they should too. He does
Yep.
well for them. He's got pedigree in the league. But overall, Villarreal, again, they didn't look as not as rock solid as in the first leg. Granted,
No.
because Bayern would throw everything forward at them, and the game would open up a little bit more. But again, they did what they needed to do. They were great on the counter. They took their chances, and you really can't complain. And Emery is the underdog whisperer when
Yeah.
it comes to these things. He loves an underdog team. I mean, PSG, he couldn't handle it because his style was too defensive for a number one side. Arsenal just didn't have the right players, and probably wrong place, wrong time for him. The squad still
Yeah.
wasn't fully, I guess, they didn't really clear out the deadwood, and they didn't have right transfer strategy maybe at the time. So, you can say his Arsenal spell was a bit, I guess, he won an FA Cup, but I mean, it wasn't the most successful. But when he's underdog, as we've seen with Sevilla, as we've seen now with Villarreal, he just knows how to get those results and become a pest. Now, is he a long-term coach? It's hard to say.
Mm.
You can only defend so much, and have an us versus them mentality for a long while. But at some point, you start wanting to dominate games and open up, and people find a way to break you down. So we'll see how long it lasts. But look, they're in the semi-finals. I wouldn't have thought that Villarreal would have gotten this far if you asked me at the
No.
start. But all things considered, happy days. We like to see an underdog rise to the occasion
Yeah. Yeah,
and
for
push
sure.
this far. Really, semi-finals is no small joke for them.
Yeah. 100%. Let's get into Madrid versus Chelsea.
Wowzers in my
Crazy
trousers.
game.
What a game. What a game.
So with this game, we had what the scoreline finished, like what the aggregate scoreline finished as?
I believe it
Was
was
it 5-4?
5-3 or
5-3?
5-4. 5-4. 5-4.
Madrid.
I think it was
Maybe Chelsea.
5-4
Yeah,
or 5-3.
I'm pretty sure it was 5-4 on aggregate.
Yeah.
Crazy
Yeah, it was
game.
3-2, not 3-1. Sorry. Yeah, first leg was.
I just loved old mate Tommy Tuchel leading up like in the post game interviews after the last leg, him saying there's no chance, Ty's dead, and it was clearly not him trying to, it wasn't like a Mourinho mind game where he's like trying to lull them into a false sense of security. No, this man 100% was like, my team is playing dog shit at the moment. No way we're turning this around. But he was sort of wrong. Big push from the Chelsea boys. I feel like they were playing with the sort of heart, with the sort of energy that they should have done when they were at home. Like it was, I don't know if it was like just a really good speech from Tommy Tuchel, or if just them feeling the pressure of like of bouncing out, or maybe the opposite. Maybe it wasn't any pressure. Maybe it was the sense of the lack of pressure of like, hey, we're already out of this. We've got nothing to lose. Let's just do our best, sort of thing, right? But look, credit to Chelsea. They did their best. They threw a lot forward. They played this game the right way for going into a tie with several goals down. Makes sense what they did.
Just throw everything forward.
Exactly, just throw everything forward. So yeah, I kind of thought it was a good effort by them, but at the same time, it just kind of made me thought, like, if they had an informed Lukaku, or they just had any sort of competent, useful, center forward at this point in time, how different would this tie have been? Because the goals that they scored were all well fought, like well hard fought goals. There weren't nothing was easy for them in that. I just think if they just had one, useful outlet up top, that could have put in a goal for them, I think that this would have been a
Mm.
highly likely that they would have turned it all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the what may have been the catalyst for them is before this game, they obviously romped Southampton 6-0. It's like Southampton just walked in after an argument, and Chelsea needed to take their frustration out, so just wailed on Southampton.
Yep.
6-0 was the scoreline. It was a pretty quick. It was the contest was pretty much done within the first 45. I think it was 4-0 or 3-0 by the half. So
Yeah.
they really took out their frustration. Whatever Tuchel did between those games really gave him a pep in their step, and then he kind of transferred over. I think for this game, one person I want to note while you're on bringing up the useful strikers part. I know last week we mentioned that I guess, Werner and Lukaku combined were pretty poor. And what do you call it?
Output.
The output, yeah, the output between them was pretty poor.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, Werner scored this game, and then he scored
Yeah.
2 goals in the game against Southampton. So goes to show that
Yeah.
when you talk shit online, something does happen. But
That's true, but let's
jokes
not forget that those 3 goals have now doubled his goal scoring tally,
Yes, exactly. In the
which is
last yeah, in the last 3 games, he scored,
yeah,
no, sorry, last 2 games, he scored in the same amount in the last 20, which kinda is a crazy stat when you read it out
yeah,
loud. But look, all I guess, all things said, valiant effort from
yeah,
Chelsea. They
hmm
gave it all. I think, when you look at, like, let's say Bayern, for example, and Chelsea, Bayern didn't really throw everything at him, where you could see Chelsea was just relentless in their pursuit for goals,
hmm
all the way up until
I
the
mean, look,
3.
they obviously scored several goals, so like there's
Yes,
that,
for
but
sure.
also just the chance creation, the
Yeah,
willingness to
exactly.
risk things, the
Yeah.
the Tommy Tuchel after the last game was clearly dejected and defeated, but he still
Mm,
was clear of mind enough to sit the lads down and come up with a useful set of tactics to go out and create some chances, which
mm,
I'm just surprised that we can't say the same of Nagelsmann. Like your back's pushed against the wall, you're down 1-0, which is a very accessible scoreline. Like it's not like you're
mm,
down 4. Yeah, it's
mm,
1-0.
mm,
Like that motivation is built in. Like what do you need to say to the lads other than like, hey, we're just a goal or two out from
mm.
from being not just in this but winning this tie.
Yeah, for
So I
sure.
just massive stark contrast between look, hey, these are two teams that are sort of down and out. Both coached by German managers, both like to press, both like to play this. No, I wouldn't say heavy metal football like Klopp, but energetic football, right?
Mm,
And realistically, I mean, Nagelsmann has a few more tools at his disposal, at least offensively, than Chelsea did. Maybe Chelsea a little bit more sturdy defensively, but still, like it's not logical to me as to how the Bayern lads were turning out that performance when you have another example right here of a very similar coaching style getting a completely different performance out of a team. I'm not
mm,
trying to say like Tuchel's clear of Nagelsmann, which I think statistically at this point he is.
mm.
It's just surprising to me that where was that energy from Bayern?
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, to be fair, when you look at their CV, I mean, not Nagelsmann hasn't been as in the big job or any big
No,
jobs, and hasn't been coaching probably as long as
no, not at all.
Tuchel has been. And Tuchel's just come off the back of a Champions League. He's been in these situations before with PSG, with Dortmund, so I guess he's cut his teeth
Yeah.
in other scenarios. And this could be a learning process for Nagelsmann as well, where he learns to kind of be more instead of uh, what's it called, more pragmatic.
Mm.
Just kind of send the lads out firing and get them to really smash it home, and I guess kind of play some heavy metal football, as
Are,
you said.
are they gonna stick with him? You reckon?
I think so. I think it's too early to dump them. They've had injury problems in the defense and the centre back. I think the team needs some retooling overall at Bayern. I think there needs to be a couple pieces. Like they did add Upamecano and Sabitzer, which is to be expected when you see a German coach move to Bayern. He carries some of his best players over to Bayern. But I think they're gonna need to retool their defense and some of their midfielders. I think they need another big. Kimmich is good, but he's not a guy that's gonna put in a heavy tackle or put fear in the people in the midfield's heart. I think where they need to work is find someone that's a good defensive midfielder that's just puts in a stiff tackle and then moves the ball along or kind of covers for the centre backs. Is able to drop between them or something like that. So then Kimmich
Yeah,
can kind of do his best where he's roaming around, moving the ball around or going up and down. I also think that Pavard isn't really the best right back. He's
no, no.
okay. He's okay, but I don't think he's the best option there. And I think they can upgrade that position. I just think they need to retool some of the players. I think maybe he needs to get younger or build some depth. So that I don't think they're I think Bayern they're switched on club. I think they know they need to make some changes and some sacrifices, maybe a couple of sales. I don't know,
Yeah,
but I think they need to retool parts of their defense and midfield. But I don't think the Nagelsmann experiment is over. It's not like
that's fair.
where it was with Kovac, where it sensed it was kind of smelling rotten from the inside as well. The players weren't listening. The manager was kind of, you know, barely head above water. Like it doesn't smell the same. It doesn't ring the same.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
think it's just an adjustment period that needed to happen. And also when you look at the squad, like your best players are Lewandowski, Muller. They're getting older.
Old lads. Yeah,
Neuer. Yeah, like I just think that it's inherited a few different coaching philosophies. Like, look, Hansi Flick came in and made the most with the least, and then I think he knew as well. Is like probably I think he did mention it in his last season. He's just like, yeah, we're gonna have to make a few more signings stuff. I think Hansi knew as well, and who's to say that he would have succeeded and got this far with the team. But I think there's a retooling period. But for Chelsea, Real Madrid, it's tangent aside.
yeah.
I think, look, valiant effort. They did well. But Real Madrid, what a team! Like, look at like Modric's ball to Rodrigo just exemplifies how this team can
Rodrigo.
find a way to get it done.
Yeah,
Like
really
that ball, what a peach! Outside of the foot,
ridiculous.
vintage Modric outside of the foot, and then to put it on literally put it on Rodrigo's foot. The guy just had to simply change the
Yeah,
direction of the ball, guide it in.
yeah.
Mate, it's just, especially being down 3-0 and letting
Mm,
the team back into the tie, like it's so crazy to see. And then, like, again,
yeah.
we've gushed over Benzema a gazillion amount of time. And look, I'm gonna make it clear here: Benzema for Ballon d'Or. I don't want to hear anything about Lewandowski being robbed. No,
Nah,
who
no,
showed
no.
up? Who's shown up time and time again
It's Benzema. This year,
for
it's
his team?
Benzema.
It's Benzema. This guy didn't
This
have
year, it's
many
Benzema.
chances this time. He was kept pretty much out of the game for a long period. Had a few
Yeah.
chances, did hit the crossbar, and did eventually get a goal. But he showed up and he scored the goal that mattered the most, which is the winning goal off the back of that great cross from Vinicius. Like goes to show, like, these narratives that come out about X, Y, Z player and this guy deserves this and this guy's been doing that.
Mm,
It's all, not to say that it's baseless, but you really have to look at that you can tell me the stats, and I think everyone generally nowadays, especially
mm.
with like the way football's reported and how teams are stacked up, it's all about numbers, statistics, XG, whatever the case. And those are good in defining maybe future returns or identifying patterns of behavior, something like that, right? But the eye
Yeah.
test still remains the same. And
Hmm.
when you look at it, pound for pound, Lewandowski and Benzema, when you look at the eye test in clutch games, in overall mannerisms, obviously they're not the same type of attitude. Where
Yeah.
Lewandowski is more, recluse, and Benzema is obviously a little bit more, I guess, not brash, but flary. A bit,
Brash. You could say brash. I think
yeah,
brash is a good
brash,
way to describe Benzema.
ostentatious, probably more
Ostentatious. Yeah.
luxurious, more
Yeah.
luxurious.
Yeah.
when they give you the armband at Real Madrid, you're no slouch. Especially considering Ronaldo was there, he didn't have the armband. Ramos left, and he finally got that. So he had to earn his stripes under
Yeah,
the wings of other guys. You can see when Benzema drags his team across when he scores, well supported, well
yeah,
liked.
yeah. Oh
His
yeah.
team back him.
No, it's I don't think there's a comparison between
No,
this
I
season
think.
at least. There's between Lewandowski and Benzema. The way I
Mm,
see it is like Lewandowski, supreme goal scorer, lots of goals to his name, has won across two legs in a
mm,
game where they only needed two from him. You know,
yeah.
So he couldn't meet the expectation when the expectation was just a goal a game.
Mm,
Nothing above what you're already producing. He fell short of that.
mm,
Expectation of Benzema was, about the same, and boy, did he, exceed that tenfold,
mm,
doing way more than what you'd expect from a player at his age and in this current sort of period of his career to be doing. Just
mm,
outstanding, outstanding. Then you look away from the numbers. You just look at the leadership he brings, the effect he has on morale for the team, the impact he's had on Vinny. You know what I mean? Because
mm,
like the telepathy he has with him has brought more out of
mm,
him. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a time in Evan Lewandowski's life where you could say, "Oh, he's bringing more out of X player or that guy over there." Maybe his time with Marco Royce, but was that more Klopp doing it for them? Who knows? I'm not sure. You know,
mm,
so it's one of those things where, yes, statistically, I get it. Lewandowski is a goal machine. He's pumped the Bundesliga full of goals this year. Terrific stuff. I still think that he would gladly trade 25% of his goals to have scored one or two more against Villarreal, right? And
100%.
that's it. And that's it right there. So
Mm,
these goals from Benzema in the Champions League that will the team through through the knockout stages, they were worth more to me than Lewandowski pumping a couple more through some mid-table Bundesliga side.
for sure, for
That's
sure,
that's just how it is.
for
Now
sure.
Modric, I look. Who would have thought that at 36 years old, between Messi, Ronaldo, and Modric, you'd be looking at Modric as the best of the three at this age? Like
Mm.
Ronaldo has been doing nothing but rubbing essential oils on his body and doing hot and doing cold
Smashing
baths and
cones.
saunas and all that sort of stuff. And we're still seeing Father Time's impact on the fella. Even after all that sort of all the precautions he's taken. And
Essential.
Modric does look like a supreme professional, and I'm sure he takes a
No,
lot of care of his body, but you don't expect him to be just carrying on the way he is right now.
no,
Just
100%. And
ridiculous balls, clutch plays, slide tackling Messi in that game against PSG. Ridiculous. Like this is a
mm,
36-year-old man chasing down a one of the faster players out there in football and slide tackling him. When you've got next to him, you've got Casemiro and Valverde who will happily do the running for him. So you know
mm,
what I mean? Like he steps out of his role, and when he does, he exceeds in that. So I just look, the way I see it is that if Modric could rack up the minutes that Benzema has this season, I think you'd
mm,
have a nice 1 and 2 for Ballon d'Or right there. Because
mm.
it'd be a hard argument to make to say that Modric isn't as crucial to this Madrid side as Benzema has been. But the
Mm,
reality is, like, look, okay, he just hasn't played as many games as Benzema has. He just hasn't been on the
mm,
field as much. So
And he's
for
just
me,
his impact isn't statistically presentable. Like, yes, okay, he can do the assists, but his overall, like you said, the tackle, the leadership,
yeah, yeah,
all that
yeah,
type
yeah,
of stuff, it's a bit intangible.
yeah,
Unlike
it
his
is
Ballon d'Or season, where
exactly,
you can see with the national team he was scoring goals. It was a more visceral, way of measuring it. But again,
exactly,
I wouldn't be upset if I saw him in the top five or top three voting, in the
hundred
Ballon
percent,
d'Or. I just
hundred
think
percent.
I'll admit I have underestimated Modric throughout his career. I didn't think, like it didn't really stick. He didn't really stick out to me as someone of the elk. And granted, he's played through some of the craziest or his generation, I should say, had some of the craziest midfielders. Like his time at Real Madrid, he was battling Xavi, Iniesta. Like there's so
Mm,
many, even Lampard at
yeah,
points.
yeah,
Like granted, Lampard was at the end of, well, moving towards the end of his career. He's had a lot of big names in his generation, but one thing that stood out is the fact that he called his shot and went to Real Madrid, had a
yeah,
stinker of a first season there, voted the worst signing, and now
yeah,
he's named 100% his jersey goes up in the in the rafters when it's all said and done. And realistically, it wouldn't be far. It wouldn't be I guess an ignorant or a hot take
Mm.
to say that he's probably top five all time. Like real, like when you think about it, Ballon d'Or, multiple Champions Leagues. The guy's impact in games was measurable, both in statistical and again in the intangible. It's hard not to say he's not in the top five. I think when it's all said and done,
Mm.
we'll see his more respect towards his overall
Oh yeah, oh
time
yeah,
in
for
the
sure,
game.
for sure. I
I
really do
still
think that this post Ronaldo time has solidified it for him. You
mm,
know, because while Ronaldo's there, it's kind of hard to grab the headlines because obviously Ronaldo's there, and then there was obviously the period of time with Ronaldo, Benzema, Bale. That's
mm,
anytime Real Madrid was to win a game in that period of time, they have to give the kudos to one or the other because that's who
mm,
sells the jerseys. But
mm,
look, realistically, they've all sort of moved, or two of them have sort of moved into different phases of their career. And Modric has continued to output, the same sort of results. And if anything, I mean, these last two seasons, he's since the Ballon d'Or season up until now, they're probably his best. And
mm,
I would argue that Real Madrid have probably been the worst at those times. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
Real Madrid as a team have been better before those periods of success from
for
Modric.
sure.
So I think that just heightens it because it's like he's keeping, or he's one of the cogs keeping this Madrid side to standard. Do you know what I mean? Where you take him out, just as if you take Benzema out, they fall a whole lot. Whereas if you took Ronaldo out of that Madrid side with the Mourinho days, or you took Bale out or Benzema out, I mean, you still got a plethora of other players that you can lean on. So for him to be this consistent when considerably all the pressure is on them, because without them they're really nothing. They've really risen to the occasion, and I think you're right. Modric, this last stretch of Champions League games, I think solidifies him as you know puts him in the conversation at least for top
Mm,
five of all time. I think it becomes with midfielders. I think it's always hard to do a top five or top 10
mm,
because it becomes a bit about like what's your flavor. Do you rank a
mhm.
defensive mid higher or lower? They don't all really do the same things. It's not as easy as like the striker conversation because their job is to score goals. Just remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Whereas with midfielders, it becomes a bit of like a tasting. But man,
Mm,
when you're talking about like Modric, you have to talk about Xavi, you have to talk about Iniesta. These are the kinds of names he's being mentioned with, and he
mm,
should be. That's the comparison now.
for
Whereas
sure.
before it was sort of like, oh, he's one of the best. Whereas
Mm,
now, no, you. If someone was to sit me down and try to talk me into Modric being, the best, pure ball playing number eight, I would have to, I'd have to sit and listen to them because we've
mm,
seen him do some incredible things.
100%, 100%.
All right.
Now
Before we
to the
move on,
other,
though,
huh?
shout out to the football capital lads for chiming in and joining us on the stream. Also, they've got it here Benzema for Ballon d'Or. Very much agree. I think
Very
right
much
now at this
agree, mate.
stage, yeah, if we're handing it out tomorrow, which actually isn't too far off. I think with the new rules,
Yeah,
it's
it's
only
right at
like
the end
what
of the season, so there's maybe in about 2
a
months'
month,
time or
month, month and
two
a
and a
half.
half.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
something like that. So
yeah,
very close. I look, they're gonna win the league. That's certain. If they get to have a good performance in the semi-final, um, and none of the other candidates win the Champions League, I think it's going to be very hard to take it away from Benzema. I think the only thing that could do it is like, I mean, who are the other candidates at the moment? I mean,
I can't think.
see, the thing
I
is
don't
with
know.
Salah. See, my pick. If Egypt qualified for the World Cup and if they had won the African Cup of Nations, I think 100% Salah is in the candidacy for Ballon d'Or, if not the Ballon d'Or. But they bounced out of the World Cup. They didn't win the African Cup of Nations. Um, you know, he hasn't been the be all and end all for Liverpool's Champions League performances. Uh,
Mm,
it's still up in the air whether they're going to win the title or finish second. So I think too much has to fall in place for Salah
mm.
to be a genuine shout. I think at the moment it's just Benzi. Like who else you
I
got?
think yeah, Benzema is far and away. I think number one, but I mean, no, you can't count Ronaldo, and I don't think you can count Messi. You can. argue
No,
because of his copper, but I can't justify it when you look
Messi.
at what.
No, that counted for the last one. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. So
No.
it's nah. I think Benzema. It's Benzema's to lose. I really don't see anyone else. I can't draw on any other names that can come close.
Yeah,
But
me
yeah, I
neither.
think it's Benzema's to
That's
lose
what I'm saying.
really.
Like you could make the argument for Salah if they'd won African Cup or if they'd qualified for the World Cup or
Mm,
something other than what's happening at Liverpool. Just a little bit of a different reference point because realistically, if you're going to make the argument for Salah winning it, well then why not argue for Mane then? Like
yeah,
Mane,
exactly.
Mane obviously hasn't been as much the impetus as Salah has for Liverpool, but internationally, I mean, African Cup knocked him out of the World Cup qualifiers. Like,
Mm,
he's done a lot as well. So I think
mm,
I think they cannibalize their own votes a little bit between each other there.
mm,
And then like where else you got? You can't do Messi, you can't do Ronaldo. I mean, Mbappe could maybe be in the conversation,
mm,
but Champions League crashed out too early. So like I don't know. I
mm.
just feel like it's like, what are you looking at? His performances in Ligue 1? Like that's not enough. Like
Yeah,
it's going to be more than that. So yeah, I really do think that I don't know who's on the ballot sheet at the moment,
yeah. I don't know
but
who's what in 2 and 3. I don't
well,
know.
Lever's going to be on there. Lever's going to be on there.
Yeah,
He'll be on there. He'll be on
yeah,
there for sure.
yeah.
He has to be because of the sliding that they've given him, and a bit of the lack of options at the moment. Hey,
Yeah,
maybe someone takes a bit of a flight on Modric. Who knows?
maybe. I hope to
Yeah,
see it.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I really want to give that a think and come back
So
to
it's
see
going to be a
who
tight one this
who
year
three.
because it's going to be hard because like it's Benzema's the front runner at least to us, and there isn't another clear option. And like realistically, I highly doubt that they're going to want to give Benzema the Ballon d'Or. Like I
Maybe.
just I don't think they want to. Like this is a guy. He's French, right? They're well aware of his exploitative ways and what he's done in the past. He's not been the biggest fan in the French media in his
Well, he
past
was
two seasons.
barred from the French national team for a long time. But look, I
Exactly,
think I don't know,
exactly. So
man.
I think I just feel like there might be a little bit of politicking there.
It could be.
But yeah,
It could
there's a
be.
good point here from the Football Capital lads. Do you think there should be a Ballon d'Or just for keepers? Don't ever see one winning it. Look, realistically, the attackers there's a massive bias towards them in the Ballon d'Or.
Mm,
I don't think making other awards would fix it because I don't think those other awards would ever be as coveted,
no.
and it's just going to not feel as good for the defenders or for the keepers, I should say. I just think that the voters should start to weight, defensive impact and the impact that goalkeepers bring higher. You know what I mean? Like it just at least give them higher chances of nominations because I don't want to see a list of 10 Ballon d'Or nominees where by the time we're getting into the fourth and fifth slots, you're talking about the third and fourth goal scorers from fucking Holland or some shit like that. It's you can't tell me that someone like, for example, Mendy wasn't more useful to Senegal and to Chelsea these last season and a half than I don't know. Let's say fucking who else was in the contention for Ballon d'Or last year? Like for example, Suarez, right? Suarez was out and about. I get it, Atletico won the title, all that sort of stuff. Chelsea won the Champions League.
Mm,
Senegal won the African Cup of Nations. This boy was the clear number one best goalkeeper, stopping goals from going in. He was right at the top of the list. No mention
mm.
of him. You know, at least help him get some momentum. Throw him up a little further up the list.
Yeah, I don't know. With goalkeepers and defenders in general, I think it's hard to it's it's hard to measure who has a bigger like it's hard to quantify exactly who has a bigger impact. Is it the defender that keeps the goals out, or is it the striker that scores them? So it's hard to exactly pit them head to head because it's kind of comparing apples and oranges. To
Yeah,
your point, yeah, I don't think creating another award would be coveted as much. I think it'd be kind of like handing out a
yeah.
participation award.
Sort of, yeah, sort of. Just make it so that this award is better at considering those players,
Mm,
Because if Ballon d'Or is about who's the best football player, unfortunately, there's more aspects to football than scoring goals, much more.
mm,
You know what I'm
mm.
saying? So let's acknowledge those aspects more so, rather than try to create an award that aligns with each of the sort of details all that sort of stuff. See, he's got Jorginho here in it last time. That's another good point. You can't tell me Jorginho was more useful to Chelsea than Mendy was. It's just you can't do it.
Hey,
You
you're
just
talking
can't.
about Chelsea's top goal scorer of that season with 7
Can't, like,
penalties.
it's Italy won the Euros. I get it, but again, do you think Jorginho was the reason Italy won the Euros? Probably not. Like, I don't see that
Mm,
being the argument being made. You could even argue Gigi Donnarumma was more useful, and that just has the argument right there that goalkeepers can be more impactful than outfield players can.
mm,
So, Gigi Donnarumma won best goalkeeper of that tournament, right? Was a clear reason as to why they won. Save penalties in the penalty shootout, yada, 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 all that sort of stuff. Still couldn't make an argument for him to be in the Ballon d'Or list, and
mm,
Jorginho is in there.
mm,
So it's just they need to. I don't think they need to adjust criteria because I think the criteria already allows for this. But the journalists, the writers that do this award just simply need to take all these attacking footballers' dicks out of their mouths and start voting for other people. It's just that simple. You know what I mean? We shouldn't have to wait from Cannavaro up until now to see another centre back voted. You telling me Cannavaro was the last good centre back? Has there been no others? Just no one else useful. Everyone's been trashed since then. Like, come on, bro. You've got Rolls Royce centre backs, right? Like Van Dijk, people like Ramos who've bled the colors of their club and country and done so much, won World Cups, back-to-back Champions League, all this sort of stuff, and you just never
Continental.
get them. I understand that the winners have been locked into Messi and Ronaldo for quite some time, but that doesn't stop them from being second, third, fourth, or fifth, or in the nomination list. They put a short list together of 55 of these motherfuckers every year, and you rarely see a goalkeeper or a defender in there. You can't tell me that the only part of football is scoring goals. It's impossible.
I think outside the 10, surely there's like a keeper in there somewhere. You'd have to start considering keepers after the 10 outfield players. You really can't tell me there's 10 good. There's only 55 good strikers and midfielders in the world, or maybe a defender thrown in there
Yeah,
every now and then. Surely there's more to it. But yeah, look, it's something to kind of look forward in the future. I just don't. The thing with keepers and stuff like, yeah, okay, Mendy, I completely agree. Great player, great guy, has done a lot for his team. But like, it's the thing with keepers is their role is unheralded, and also when they do well or when they do bad, it's equally their fault, or
yeah,
it's and like with goalkeepers, it's very much like, again, it's all about confidence even up front. But I feel like goalkeepers tend to burn out really quickly, or their light fades a lot quicker. Like their Ballon d'Or, like their best seasons tend to be two maybe, and then after that, it's just a slight dip below, but it's very consistent.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Whereas
for sure.
some other players can find another degree or find another step. And I think, with Ramos, thinking back now, I'm surprised he didn't even enter the top three at some point. Surely there's been a point where he's been top three, because when you think about it, Cannavaro won the Ballon d'Or off the back of a great World Cup,
Yeah,
and great play with his team, Real Madrid, and being a captain, all that jazz, right?
yeah,
But why wouldn't Ramos, captain of his national team during the most dominant, in the most dominant team, national team that we've seen in a very, very long time, and we
yeah,
haven't seen since,
uh-huh,
both on an international stage and on a continental stage,
yeah,
plus playing for one of the most dominant clubs, with the best player in the world,
yeah, yeah.
every second year,
Scoring the winning goals in Champions League
scoring winning goals. Like,
finals.
you'd think that is an argument to kind of get him in the conversation for Ballon d'Or. But thinking back, it doesn't really. You never really heard that argument being
No,
made. And
never, never, never,
that's
never,
something.
never.
That's something to
Let's put it this way. How the hell could you explain to me how Jorginho has been in the top 5 of Ballon d'Or voting, but we've never seen Ramos up there? Right? Or
100%.
any of the other top 5 or 6 centre backs that we've had in the last 4 or 5 years. You know what I mean? They just don't.
Mm,
They don't get the shine. They don't get the respect. I get it. It's the nature of the award. It skews towards the attacking footballers. But at the end of the day, the people that are voting for this award, they're the tastemakers of football. These are the writers and the content creators that put the stuff out there into the media for us to consume and build our opinions on. So why not they sort of start to change the trend a little bit and acknowledge some of these different sorts of roles that players executing out there. So look, let's wrap up the EPL really quickly
Yep.
because we're running out of time here.
Mm-hmm.
Liver versus City, the big kahuna. This one went just exactly as you said, mate. A draw,
Two
right?
two. Even I think I even got the score right,
I think so. I think you did.
mate.
Um, all the key players did well, all that sort of stuff. You even have here Trent justifying Southgate's reason because of his dodgy defending. And
That's
he's
inexcusable. I'm sorry,
he's
but you cannot let that happen. As the best right back in the league, supposedly, and I get the output is fantastic. The numbers, again, the numbers speak for themselves. Most assists, blah blah blah, all that. But you cannot let that guy. You can't sleepwalk the guy in and let him score in a game this big. It just doesn't happen. And this season, it's happened a few times. I know the first game where Foden gave him a nightmare.
tush.
That wasn't a great moment. And there's been this year Trent defensively has been exposed a few times. I think
Oh yeah,
he's been kind of shown to not be as resolute in his defending, maybe as he once was, or maybe it was just a thing that he covered up with his attacking return that no one really noticed. But um,
yeah. I see that.
all in all, great game. KDB was fucking beautiful.
He was.
Absolute baller everywhere and anywhere. And I think everyone showed up and showed out. Even Salah, like, what a pass to, I think it was Mane.
Mane. Yeah,
Mane's goal, the second one. What a pass. Literally
ridiculous.
right through the middle of everyone, like
Yeah,
thread the needle type of stuff. Really,
yeah.
really good game. Again, there's still more to go, and I'm glad that this was just the appetizer to the final running in the last 8 or so games. This kind of, I'm glad it wasn't settled now. We've got a few
Mm,
more to go. And it just goes to show how close the teams are. I mean, 2 draws um, in the season, and both entertaining games. It really goes to show again how close and how I guess the parities between these two clubs. So and again, even if let's say Liverpool win the title, I wouldn't be upset because they've really
mm.
played just as well, if not better, at some points than City, and vice versa. So
Yeah.
great way to keep the contest going. Um,
Mm.
Looking at the other end of the table, Burnley, they've
Oh,
sacked Sean Dyche and his whole
biggest
staff.
mistake of the season. This is, regardless of result,
Mm.
regardless if they stay up or they go down or whatever the hell happens, this is a bad move. 100%. That's the heart and soul of the team. 10 years.
Yes, I agree. But look. This was that was my initial reaction. 100%.
Yeah.
I was like, look, dude, this is a bold call to do with 8 games to go. Sack an entire backroom staff plus the head coach, the guy who's
Yeah.
been there for a very long time. Blah 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 blah. But here's the thing: the last couple of seasons haven't been his best. There have been slow starters and issues galore, and whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. But you have to remember who got them in this mess. It was Sean. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
Daesh. And granted, they've had a lot of COVID reschedule. They were at 1.5 games in hand, and
Yeah.
they're still stuck in the same position. I think I respect the call. Do I think they should have waited till the end of the season? Potentially. But if this under 23 coach, I didn't catch his name, some generic Martin something or other, but if he
Yeah.
comes in and manages to save them, then it kind of validates it. If not, well, you rebuild from the Sean Dyche era, and I think everyone in the league, even teams in the league and people reporting on the league, knew that at some point
Oh,
Burnley had to
yeah.
make a decision. Do you stick with what you know with Daesh, or do you have to make the call and say, you know what, we have to pivot to a different direction? Because I think the football, look, we all love the memes. I think Sean is a great character to have in a league in an era of Twitter apologies and screenshot of notes after a game, or inviting people out to dinner after you smash their phone. In that era, he was a breath of fresh air. He was taking the piss.
Yeah.
He was a pretty funny guy. He had his raspy
Yeah.
voice as well, which added to it as well. But
Yeah.
I think they needed to make this choice now because he's got them into this mess, and it's better to get a coach in or transition the team with 8 games to go towards gearing towards the championship if that's the outcome, than leave it at the end of the season and have less time to do it. I think they cut they cut the gangrenous part off before it spread to they may have lost a
Yeah,
leg or down below the knee, but
yeah,
at least they saved the rest of the body. And look, again, he got them into this position. Someone else might be able to get them out. They lost to Norwich. Like, look, the result withstanding, they're now 4 points behind Everton. They've lost to Norwich away 2-0. And Norwich has, look, credit to Norwich. Fantastic for them to get back up to the Prem, but
mm.
they've been to in the bottom for the whole season.
Oh
Not
yeah,
even
they're not
not even
they're
Dean
they're
Smith
not a
would
prem
say
team.
no.
They're not a prem team.
Unfortunately, not too good for the championship. Not good enough for the Prem. You can't lose to them. That's a 6 pointer. You've lost 6 points there. That could have definitely either brought you closer to Everton or pushed them further to the edge. A team that's arguably pretty bad shape as well.
Mhm.
So I just think I think it's the right call. I hope it's vindicated for them when they stay up or if they do stay up. If when they get to the championship, that's a whole nother kettle of fish they can worry about. That's
Yeah.
something that can be
I
sorted
think
out.
it's I think it's to me it goes beyond the pragmatic football result
Mm,
because I think that yeah, like if you're a bottom, top three side and you bounce out your long-term coach at that point,
mm,
trying to get a new manager bounce for the last 8 games of the season, that's just a simple lever to pull that's always there for any relegation side. It's
mm,
it's something that you can do, and more than likely you're going to get a new manager bounce.
mm,
Okay, very good. What I see is that they've fired their coach of 10 years, the guy that brought them up to the Premiership, and on top of that, made and developed their identity, right?
mm,
And now you fire him, right? Just sort of like willy nilly, and you don't put any video, you don't do a little thank you message, you don't do nothing, right? Just a simple, cold statement on your socials, and don't acknowledge the man's history at all for the club.
mm,
That to me, that hurts their prospects of really bringing in anyone that gives a shit. Because
mm,
why, if you gave a shit, would you give anything to this club? You just saw a man give 10 years to this club, right? And he just got bounced out like he's never done anything for them. So
mm,
I don't see them ever being able to get anyone that really is going to have a long term view for this club, right? They're going to be a stepping stone club because they've created that sort of feeling now. It's like, well, if I go in there, what's none of my history is going to matter. They're not going to care for me at all. Go look at all the other aspiring clubs, your Brightons, your Leeds, your all those sorts of things. What are they doing? They're doing their best to create a suitable coaching environment. Even when Leeds did something similar with Bielsa, the 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 way in which they handled the situation was a lot more respecting of the situation they had with their manager. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Burnley did none of that. So I think they've hurt themselves a lot with this. Even if they stay up, I think the losses will be longer term than what we think. I think it's
mm,
going to be a case of who are they going to bring in? Who wants to coach Burnley? No one, right? Who wanted to coach Burnley before? No one. Who wants to coach Burnley now after they've seen them do that to one of the most iconic managers in the game? Like no one's gonna put their hand up for this job. That's why they've got a temporary manager in this under 23 coach, because if they really, really, really wanted this new manager bounce, they would have had someone lined up ready to go straight away. This
mm,
tells me that they tried to find someone, couldn't find someone, and said, hey, well, look, we'll just move this guy on because anything's better than what we've got at the moment.
mm, mm,
And the fact that they didn't have a backup option shows to me they haven't got no one's applying for this job.
Or maybe I don't know. The way you could look at it is maybe they like the cut of the jib of this under 23 coach because they've been doing a lot
Yeah,
of youth investment. Maybe they think this
maybe.
guy is the next guy, and like what, Daishi, see you later. This
Look, it
new
could be that,
guy,
right?
this
Yeah.
new guy, we want to back him. We'll give him 8 games in the season. If he sucks, if we drop out, doesn't matter. We still think he can get us out of the championship, and get us back in there. But the thing with Burnley is, and like I hate to say it, but they've been overperforming for 10 years. Look at the size of the club. Look at the relative spending of the club. Look at
Yeah.
the history of the club. They were never meant to be in the Premiership. And look, granted, 100% Dyche deserve his flowers for leaving him in the league for as long as they have. But with a stingy owner, with a small fan base and a niche supporter group, like how far could they have taken this? look, as high as they went up to 8th, they've quickly fell um,
Yeah,
back down.
yeah.
And I think they're a championship. I think they're just another Stoke. I really do. Like, it smells the same, and I think it'll probably end the same. Maybe they won't have that they won't have that Mark Hughes bounce that Stoke did, where they were
Mm,
playing attacking football and ruined Stevie G's retirement,
yeah.
and were in the Europa League. But I think it's just the same story, kind of repeating itself. Small club, no Prem history, gets in there, stays 10 years or so off the back of a defensive coach
Mm.
that kind of, I guess, creates a siege mentality. And then they change. They need to go through a new direction because the team has gone stale. Maybe they get a bounce and then they disappear back into the championship. Like that. I think that's how it's going to work. Like
Look, 100%.
they don't have the spending power to stay there. They don't have the club backing
Yeah,
to the
but
history.
they could have. They have an identity. They have something to claim to, right?
Mm,
And they would have had at least some sort of brand. Maybe not the best brand, but they would have had something, some sort of fame to cling on to, right?
mm,
That they developed under Sean. And what I think they've done by doing this is they've washed that all the way. Now it could
mm,
be, that they start from zero and everything they build from here is beautiful and it was the right move, right?
mm.
But I think that having some sort of identity is much better than having none at all. And
That's true.
doing this wipes away what little they already had. So now, if they crash down to the championship, I think we're not seeing them come up for a very, very
Yeah,
long
yeah,
time,
I don't think so either.
very,
No,
very long time.
no.
Because without that sort of gumption that they had before, what are they? They're really nothing. They've got, like you said, they're a historyless club, right? They've never really been in the Prem before. Their whole aura was Sean Dyche, and
Mm,
it's fair enough that they've moved him on, but they should have moved him on in a way where they tried to keep that momentum going forward into the next. What they've done here feels like they've just killed everything, and now what they're doing is they're starting at a cold start for these next 8 games, and could be beneficial, could not be, but at the end of the day, what are you trying to build when you get into the Prem? You try to build the brand, you try to build the club, you try to build the following, and I think they've really hurt that with this move because, I mean, everyone's coming out and saying, like, you can't, Bloke's been there 10 years. He's done so much for the club. Give him a little photo, little
mm,
photo,
mm,
give him a quote. Call him, hey, Shawnee, give us 3 or 4 words that we can throw in for you. Like, just,
mm,
something. Show a little bit of respect for the man that got you there. I just think it's sad in that sense. Fair enough, pragmatically, there's reasons for it. I'll agree with those. But just, you're a small club to begin with. All you have is that little bit of identity that you've made. Why squander it? You know.
mm.
Let's wrap up on that one though. Big F's for Sean. Hopefully we see him. Maybe not in the Prem again, but hopefully we see him around sometime soon. Maybe he'll pick up Everton after they inevitably kick Frank out the door. But we'll wrap up on that one. Follow us on the socials at Last Go Wins Podcast on Facebook, at Last Go Wins Pod _ on Instagram, at Last Go Wins Pod on Twitter. All glory be to Bozza. I hope he gets his account back.
I hope so too. Stay away from those crypto scammers.
Bow bow. Goodbye.